clap us. Are you gonna clap us in? Hey. Freestyle. Just kidding. Turn this into 5 Fingers of Death. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Stoopkid Podcast. We got a very special guest in the building. My boy Jordan PALANI.
What's up? How's it going?
Round of applause. There it is. Yes, sir.
Hey,
all right, what's going on, Jordan? What's up, man?
Nothing much. Just living life.
Living life, baby. Living life. Jordan is man of many talents, man of many accolades in his young career. Amongst probably the most important Stoopkid alumni.
Yes, sir.
Member of the team for sure. One of the newest, which is exciting. Jordan, TikTok star, recording artist, lead singer of the band. Forget Tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Right on, man. Yeah. We're super excited to have you, dude. I know you guys just got done playing the Whiskey Go-Go.
Yeah.
Talk to us about it. How was it, man? That's monumental.
Monumental, exactly. The Whiskey Go-Go, I didn't know much about the venue up until about I turned this year. Once I started looking into LA venues that everyone's performed at, and the Whiskey, the Roxy, stuff like that, those small bars that are real intimate but super legendary.
Yeah.
So I was approached with the opportunity because I recently performed at another event. It was called iPop LA out in Anaheim, and this boy band was there. And they were headlining the Whiskey, and they were looking for acts. They saw me perform, and they were like, "Hey, we have this show coming up. Would you want to be a part of it?" And we talked. I communicated that I wanted my band there. They said, "That's dope. We want live music," and the rest is just history.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. Was that at the that Anaheim show? That was at that convention, right?
Yeah, it was at the convention.
That's sick.
It was at the convention.
So, talk to me about because it looked like there was a huge fan base there. Was that the biggest show you've done?
The Whiskey?
Yeah.
It's the second biggest show.
Yeah.
It was I had a show where I opened up for my good friends, the North Star Boys. They were on tour. They performed in San Francisco at the Great American Music Hall.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest show. Then Whiskey's right underneath that.
That's sick.
Sheesh.
Any list of top venues that you have in your mind that you want to get to eventually?
Well, of course, I want to play at Crypto, Imagine, shit like that. But as right now, the ones that are really on my list would be the Roxy, House of Blues, and pretty much those two are at the top of my list.
Yeah, House of Blues is fun.
House of Blues is pretty wild.
We got to do House of Blues a couple times.
Yeah, it's big enough to be wow, and then also intimate enough to be this is you can get the vibe.
Plus, it's right next to Disneyland. I mean, how exciting is that?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
I think one of the things that when we met, what was it, probably now 6 months or so ago, through Garrett Douglas, one of the things that is super important to me that I love about you is you're just such a humble dude. How you come across is especially me being I guess approaching old head status in this game. Which is weird, but one of the things that I think is a super big misconception with a lot of people that blew up through social media, specifically TikTok, is that there's a certain type, a certain super into myself type of character that people associate with that. Do you feel people associate that with you off the bat, or 100%?
I mean, you're 100% right too. Gen Z and all these TikTok influencers, they're not the greatest people. I'm gonna say shit.
That's gonna be the cut scene right
there. I've been to parties where there's kids who have millions of followers and they're on internet. They seem like these great, genuine people, but in reality, they're fucking bozos. They get drunk, they're rude, they think that they're higher than everybody.
Yeah.
And it's all because they've had fame, when really if you went to school, you'd be bullied because you're
being an asshole.
Yeah, you're a dick.
Being a little bitch.
And I think people put that picture on me because they see this kid, he has a couple followers, he's on TikTok with his shirt off, or he's lip singing a song, he has tattoos, he's probably full of himself.
Right.
But in reality, it's I don't think I'm shit.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is something that's super admirable about you, because you are a young guy. But I think you brought up a really good point, which is you grow up like in a way of like, I want to be famous, right? Like you did go to school.
Yeah.
Like talk to us a little bit about that process, because that's something I think is really interesting, kind of that transition of like you went to school, and like talk to us about that whole process.
So I grew up in a city where it was sports, like Corona, California, the Inland Empire. It was me and in my family, my brother, he was a real big sports guy. Like since he was a little kid, he was always the biggest kid. He played varsity sports his whole life.
Football?
Yeah, football. Yeah. And like my parents saw me and they were like, okay, that's what you're gonna do. And as a kid, I only cared about like making my parents happy. Yeah. So it was school, my grades came first, sports, and then anything else I wanted to do, they supported, but they were mostly focused on school and sports. And that's how I grew up. So I went to school, focused on sports, and focused on my academics. And then I didn't really find music until my senior year of high school. And by that time, I went through high school. I had my whole life planned out as far as going to college, what kind of job I wanted, what career I wanted. I was on track to become a lawyer.
Damn.
Dude, me too at one point, actually, yeah.
Like
I never was.
That's weird.
What the fuck is wrong with me?
Why not, dude? Haven't you heard about how great being a lawyer is?
I have.
I mean, it's the Asian household. It's you're either a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, like a nurse, like any one of those. But when I was, I think my sophomore year of high school, that was when my dad, he was like, okay, so what do you want to do? And it was like, oh shit, I have to pick my career right now. Yeah. So we started looking at colleges, fields of work. We all knew I wasn't going to make professional sports. I'm like 5'0" and weigh under 150 pounds.
Were you playing basketball?
Basketball. Yeah. I played basketball and football. Okay. Better at basketball just because I wasn't the biggest kid. So I broke a lot of bones playing football.
I bet. Yeah.
Dangerous sport.
And it is dangerous.
It is super dangerous. So yeah, like I had to choose which college I went to, and my parents had high hopes of, USC, UCLA, Stanford, Harvard. Got rejected by all of those schools. Waitlisted for USC actually.
Hey.
And then I ended up going to Pepperdine. And
I ended up going to Pepperdine. Piece of shit school.
Safety school.
My safety school is a community college. What I was shooting for.
I mean, it was between Pepperdine and Cal State Fullerton.
Did you have good grades?
I did. I graduated high school with a 4.6 GPA.
Nice. Wow. Okay.
4.6 GPA.
So you could have gotten into those schools.
How do you even get a 4.6? What do you have to do to get...
AP classes.
AP classes. AP classes. And I went to a high school where we were able to take college classes simultaneously with our high school classes.
Sure.
So I graduated high school with 4 AA degrees.
That's funny. I think that's 4 AA degrees?
You graduated high school with 4 AA degrees?
List them.
Yeah, what were they?
Arts, business, communications, and admin, like information studies, something like that.
What the fuck?
Dude, this guy had 4 AA degrees after high school and just played the whiskey. What are you fucking doing with your life?
Yeah.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
His fallback was lawyer.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so you get to Pepperdine. It's not necessarily exactly what you had planned, but it's still college. And at this point, did you have music as like, this is something that I want to do, or is this just something that is now like kind of piquing your interest? Because I know like you grew up in music, right? Like your dad was like a music manager and stuff like that when you were younger. So is this something that you were already kind of considering as like a potential career, or is this just an idea at this point and still like focused on school?
It was definitely an idea. So my dad, I did grow up in music. My dad managed a couple artists. As you mentioned, he managed Garrett Douglas, Spawn Breezy, Tribal Theory. These are all like reggae artists, big reggae bands. And growing up, I saw these bands, and I like specifically Tribal Theory and Garrett Douglas. I would go to their shows. They would bring me up on stage. I would throw T-shirts, and I fell in love. Like I looked up to these people, and I saw them as like superheroes.
Yeah.
Like these guys were the shit. Like they're doing everything they want in life, and they look so fucking cool doing it.
Plus, reggae shows are so much fun.
Yeah,
they're
so
the
much
funnest
fun.
concert that you can go to.
Such great vibes.
Yeah.
So I think as a little kid, that sparked in my mind, like that's what I want to be when I grow up. But it wasn't like realistic at the time. And so I go to college, And I've been doing music. I've recorded these songs from like a closet, put out a shitty ass music video or something like that, posted on social media to my 1,000 followers. And like in my mind, I'm like, I think I can do this. I want to do this, but it wasn't like I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So I went through college. I was known as the kid who was like posting on social media, who his cute music stuff. So, but I was still doing college and going through like my classes, working at my school gym and stuff like that, trying to be a college student, trying to go to like frat parties and stuff like that. But I just didn't enjoy it. Yeah. I found myself staying in my dorm room and making TikToks rather than going out and hanging out with college kids.
Sure. Yeah.
So the TikTok started out of music.
The TikTok started out of boredom and like sadness. So like TikTok really blew up during like COVID, and at the time there was nobody around.
Sure.
So I first started making TikToks for fun, like doing little dances, little skits in my bedroom. And then my ex-girlfriend, she really messed me up. So I went to TikTok. I went to TikTok to like post my feelings because like I didn't just talk about my feelings to people.
Sure.
Isolation too, like you don't really have someone around you. I mean, maybe you could call somebody, but it's a good outlet to get stuff out creatively.
Were you living at Pepperdine?
I lived at Pepperdine for a year. I dormed for a year.
Yeah, and that's when the TikTok stuff started.
That's when the TikTok started to really roll out as far as, and like I saw a lot of my videos get views. Yeah. I think I had my first couple videos get 1 million views out in Pepperdine. I think I hit like 50,000 followers, and people were like, "Oh, you're TikTok famous." So
I would probably say the same thing. Do you remember what video was that first got 1 million views, and what did that feel like?
I do remember the first video that got 1 million views. It was me. I posted like a dark humor video to a Juice WRLD song. Juice WRLD is my favorite artist, and I put like one of the TikTok effects where it's like flashing RGB lights, and it's me like lip singing his "I have these lucid dreams where I can," and I put the title at the top of my head like "Going to see Juice WRLD today," like. And he's already dead, so like put it as if like I was going to a concert, and then like it's me lip singing a song, and I walk into my dorm room, and then like, that's the end of the video. And like people found it funny, but then some people also took it seriously, as in like, oh, someone like help Jordan.
Oh wow!
And how that felt was like, man, I was like, 1 million people saw me.
Yeah. And
I really like I had people in my DMs, and they were like saying if I was okay, saying like, hey, like your videos inspire me, because once you get 1 million views, people start looking at all your other views.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So that's why people say a lot of the times don't delete your videos, because if one goes viral, people are just going to scroll, look at what else you do. So
it's more likely to follow and subscribe if you have other things too. It's like the same with the music side too. Like you don't want to take down those 2,000, 4,000 play songs, because as soon as one goes up, the rest of them are going up.
Right. So you graduated college. And which, congrats on that.
Thank you.
It's very hard on its own.
Yep.
As we know.
Yep.
And that was kind of when you were making this decision of like, what do you want to do? I mean, as every kid that graduates college is like, now what, right? Mm-hmm. And that was when you decided to start kind of taking the music part seriously, or the social media part seriously?
100%. So I moved out, and I got my own apartment my last semester of college. So I was renting out an apartment with a good friend of mine, probably the best friend that I made from Pepperdine. So I was renting out an apartment. We had a year lease. I graduated in December, so before like the full school year. So I only had one semester. I finished it. I graduated. I'm done. And now I have the rest of this, another 6 months in this apartment, but I'm not going to school, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do with life. So I think I made the decision on my own, to where I was like, I did everything that was asked of me. My parents told me to go to college, get a degree. Yeah. My parents always wanted me to get good grades. My parents put me in the path to where I didn't grow up doing drugs. They always took care of me. I'm not a bad human being.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm like, that's done. Now it's time for me to live for myself.
Yeah.
And like all I knew was like I was only happy when I was either making these TikTok videos, entertaining people, or making music.
Right.
And I found myself choosing like that's the career that I want, and I haven't looked back since. I've worked so many like 9-to-5 jobs just to like pay bills or make some wages, but I ended up leaving it all just to pursue music about 2 months ago, something like that.
Nice. Yeah.
Listen to the lesson, I think, is like super important, right? Like, I think I can relate a lot with like going to school because like that's what my parents wanted me to do, right? Like that was just the only path that I saw, especially like growing up where I grew up. Like nobody does music or like anything really creatively as like almost at all, really. Like there's not a lot of like creative background people.
Where'd you grow up?
Hollister, California, which is like Bay Area-ish, like 2 hours south of San Francisco. Me and Josh actually grew up together. Same
little town.
And it's a very like, not shitting on Hollister at all. It's, I'm glad I grew up there. But it's just not, there's no like creative like energy that goes on there, right? Like you're expected to like finish high school, maybe go to college, probably just go work.
Start a family.
Yeah.
Commute an hour to San Jose for work.
Right. And for a lot of people, that's a great life. And like, I know a lot of people that we grew up with, like live that life and enjoy it. And like, that's what they do. For me, I think like I felt really early on that like, not really early on, but like when I was in college and stuff, like maybe that wasn't what I wanted to do. But I also didn't know it was going to be music, right? Like it wasn't until me and Josh started like making music in the garage. Well, actually originally like doing spoken word poetry in the garage of my college house that we thought like we could do anything creative, right? Josh was going to music school at that time.
I was making beats. I'd rapped a little bit too at the time, and then I actually got into this. I guess it was like a polytechnic school. It's like it was a college, but it was mostly focused on animation. They had a digital audio department, and it was like close to his apartment. So I was just crashing there, and we'd end up staying up hours just in the garage making beats, writing to shit
because of a breakup as well. We were also sad. I was sad.
I was just already sad.
Josh was sad. And I think but honestly, probably the best thing that could have happened, right? Because it's put me on this trajectory, put all of us on this trajectory that we have today that would have never happened.
Yeah.
But I think once you get out of college, that's, obviously I've gone on and done the career thing as well and kind of made both work up to this point. And one has definitely allowed the other to happen, right? But I think the thing that I would tell people, and I think you're a huge testament of it, is don't be afraid to do the thing that you like, right? Just in general. And you don't have to do it full time like Jordan's been able to swing it. And a lot of people that we've had on, like Lilo Key, last episode, is able to swing it. A lot of people are able to do it, right? They work insanely fucking hard to make that happen, right? And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways is you can do it. It's going to be really fucking difficult. You know what I mean? You're going to have to live that broke artist life for a while until you really figure shit out. But if you can't get there, you're going to have to work twice as hard to, pay the bills and do the creative thing too. But that's okay too, right? Just do the thing that makes you happy, and you're going to open the doors and the opportunity for the life that you want to live as long as you really commit to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so cool about your story is you did that. You know what I mean?
For real, just to add on to that, it's when I was working, so I worked as a bartender / server at a restaurant during that period where I wasn't in college, and it was good money. I was able to pay for my rent and then have some change left over to where I wasn't worried about anything. But my whole thing was I felt so drained and I hated going into work. I felt like most of my days were being consumed and lost in going to work. I would have to miss specific things or not hang out with specific people or not be able to go and do what I wanted because, I got to go to work. And it was 5 days out of the 7. And so once I stopped doing that and did stuff for me, that burden of, okay, I don't have time anymore, it was lifted. But then a whole nother one started where it's all right, this is all on me. So when people say I can't just go and quit my job because it won't be I don't have the luxury of doing that. It's not a luxury to be able to quit your job and do something. If anything, this is harder than if I were to just stay and work my 9 to 5. Because honestly, I'm more tired now because I'm staying up and most of my days being lost, but that's because I'm watching YouTube videos about how to use Pro Tools or how to use Premiere, and I'm learning how to do all that stuff myself, and I'm like using this time to better me so that my content, my music, everything like that is better. While like usually I would have just woke up, went to my job, and then in like an hour or two done something with my social media, entertainment, whatever.
Right.
So now it's like I have 24 hours in a day. I have to be the one to make sure that I'm doing, like, I'm getting better within those 24 hours. Yep. And I can't just sit around and be on my phone, or I'm not going out and like fucking partying.
Right.
Like, I'm literally trying so hard to get better and become better so that I can make this a profitable thing.
Right. And it's all on you, right? And that's the thing. Yeah.
If you don't mind, how old are you?
21.
Bro, I don't think I learned anything you're talking about until like last year.
Yeah.
Like
it's true.
It's some people never learn it, but like it's cool to hear you talking from that perspective of just like, yeah, I know it's going to be hard, like, but here's the end goal. I'm reaching for that. I think a lot of people kind of go through life without really even ever knowing what that feels like. And I think more recently I've kind of come across that, but dude, more power to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I have my parents and everything to thank for me being as educated and as like humble as I am today. I agree with you. I don't think most 21-year-olds think or feel the way I do. And especially like in the social media music space, it's like you either wait too long or you hit gold at a really young age to where you didn't get to feel like how it was to struggle or doing everything on your own. Or once you get to that stage where you're older, then it's like, okay, you have a rhythm of where you could work your 9 to 5 and you're doing that, and then you're able to do this simultaneously. But I'm at the age where it's like I can risk putting everything on this because I have time. Like say if by the time I'm 27, 28, 29, whatever, it's still not working out, I could always go back to, all right, I'll go be a server. But as of right now, if I'm trying to work both, I'm not able to put all my time into music, all my time into social media. So it's like, how good can I possibly be if I don't give it my all?
Right. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. It's wise beyond your years, man. I think it's
no, it's true.
Really impressive. And I don't think you're gonna have to ever worry about going back to being a server personally. I think like with that mindset that you have now and the work ethic that I know you have, and like just saying like from the conversation that we had when you did leave that job to like what immediately started happening on social media, like all of a sudden I'm just seeing all of this Jordan content on my feed and I'm like, and it's like quality content. And I'm like, oh shit, like it's happening. And I'm seeing like numbers keep going up and interactions and people like in the comments like, oh my God, I loved your song. Like when is the song coming out? When is the song coming out? I'm like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what we needed, right? Like this is exactly what you needed to do to make shit go. And honestly, like that work ethic and like drive, I wish that, it's replicated, but it comes from within, right? Like you can know what you're supposed to do, but actually doing it is a whole nother thing. And like you said, like you wake up every day and you have to kind of turn that on, right? Like you're not just going in and hitting the time clock and start getting to work with the thing that the person told you to do. Like no one's telling you what to do. So it's that that is like an intrinsic skill that you have to have, which is
it's that uncharted waters where you got to be comfortable with yourself, got to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's so hard. It's like, I literally had this conversation because currently I don't really have a house, or I don't have a place to stay. So I've been going back and forth from like crashing at my best friend's house or my girlfriend's house. But I've just been driving like nonstop back from like LA to Corona to Orange County type shit. But I had this conversation in the bathroom of my guitarist's house. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And I like in that moment, I was like, all right, when things get hard, am I just going to quit? Or like, is this where I really need to prosper and really put in the effort to get better? Because like at times when you like you said, when you're the one telling yourself what to do, it's so easy for you to just be like, I'm lazy, or this is hard, this is difficult. But you have to be the person to tell yourself like, you chose this life, you made your bed, now fucking sleep in it.
That's true.
Those are the moments that really define your character. I mean, I look back and you can't really realize it in the moment so much, but when I look back on my life, when I think about those times, I either went left or right with it. And sometimes I made the right decision, sometimes I made the wrong decision, but those are like those pivotal moments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. You know, I think this is definitely gold. I think it's like something that's really important, but it's funny as you talk about this, it makes me think about the song that's about to come out.
Nice segue, by the way.
Which is funny because I totally didn't mean to do that, but it is a nice segue. But like the song starts off with like, sometimes I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's right. Yeah.
Like this song kind of directly talks about this.
Yeah, 100%.
That's cool. Which stay tuned. Jordan PALANI coming soon. I don't know why I'm pointing over there. The camera's over there.
Charmander needs to know.
So
Jordan PALANI.
we were talking about this a little bit earlier today. Shifting gears. Shifting gears a little bit. Do you guys know what an industry plant is?
Yeah.
I've heard the
Because
phrase.
I don't.
I've heard the phrase a little bit, but if you know it, you can.
Well, okay, this is my best assumption. I have never had anyone define it for me, but
Okay.
it's usually it's somebody that has either a look or a weird thing that either like they're usually known by somebody.
Something like their dad or something?
Their dad knows some person in this place, and they're like, yeah, let's just try to, let's put some money behind it and see how it goes. And like those people, they don't like the Bobby lady, Althorfoff, whatever her last name is.
Bobby Althorfoff.
They say she's an industry plant, but
Shout out to you, Bobby Althorfoff.
everything points to that. But she's funding herself with debt, I guess, right? So
Yeah,
it's not an
that's what
industry
I
plant. The only difference is
Yeah.
if she was getting funded by somebody
Somebody
in the industry. That's what I don't know what else would define it.
I mean, I've been told industry plant is like, so when people say industry plant, the things that I think of are like Ian Dior, Kid Leroy, David. And what that means to me is like, people are basically labeling these huge artists, saying that they didn't come up from like themselves. Like,
Russ.
yeah, like Russ is the opposite of an industry plant. Because Russ, like he came up on his own. Yeah. So like he did it all. Like he's against like these big labels. Like he wants to put out music. Like, but industry plants are usually like artists that are signed to big labels. These big labels are investing all this money into them, like you said, and they're getting all these numbers, all these fans and whatever, but it's not like just because of them. It wasn't just them doing that.
Okay.
They're kind
That
of
makes
like
sense.
they're kind of just like a puppet a little bit.
So like they're like mega funded. Like we're gonna make this person blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because they can't do that, right? They are the puppeteers, the powers that be.
Yeah. I mean, if you force enough money and it's whatever it is, YouTube or music, if it sounds or looks good and you force enough money towards it, it's gonna get a
But
following.
that's also like that's the business, right? Like I was because that's kind of how I understood it too, and I was like, but isn't that like that's the point? I mean, it sucks.
Sure. Yeah,
Like,
it's
it
just
sucks.
like the commercialization of it. I mean, if it wasn't so much money involved in the back end of it, then there wouldn't be any of this. It would just kind of be like fucking skateboarding or something.
You know what I was thinking about too is like how many artists that people sign, and then you just like never hear about them.
Yeah.
That's funny because I saw the other day, I was just scrolling through Instagram, and like this girl, she was signed to Atlantic Records. She only had like 4,000 followers, but she was signed. I've never heard of her, never seen her. Went to Atlantic Records, there's like no signs of her, but like she posted that she signed a contract with Atlantic Records.
Right.
So I'm like, how many of these people, that's another thing. Like as I got more into the music business, I've heard from like you, Garrett, my dad, so many people that I know who like have been offered deals. Like these deals from labels, they could vary, and so much of it is just like on a dealer's basis.
Yeah, they have all of the power, right? Like they can control how much music put out, how much is pushed behind you to have that music be successful. Like I know, like when one of our first conversations, I was talking about Empire, right? Like and this is not shitting on Empire. I still have a lot of respect for that business, but like when we were coming up, like I would tell everybody that would listen to me about what we were doing with music that like one day I was going to have a deal with Empire, right? Like maybe not as an artist, but like as like, what I do now. Like I'm going to have like a sub label deal with Empire, distribution deal with Empire. And we used to like walk past their office like every day to go to my day job, and I would tell anybody who was on that walk with me like what I was going to do one day. And that was when Empire, had just blown up, like Mozzie, Rex Cypherage, like all these Bay Area artists that like I loved. And what like has seemed to happen with a lot of that is like after you sign so many people, right? Like you are really in control of who you blow up. But a lot of people want that deal because they see what's happened with other artists, right? And for a label, like they want to have as many people in their fold as possible. Like that's their prerogative. That's how they make money, right? And you put out your music through them, and that's like literally the business model. But they can push whoever they want, and that's not going to be everybody. It can't be financially for the business to work. It's impossible for that to happen.
Be the snake eating its own tail.
Exactly. Like they wouldn't make any money, right? Because they'd be placing their bets on every single number on the roulette table, and it would only hit one. And, you know, maybe in this example, two at most, but that revenue is eventually going to die. But like, you think about how many people have blown up, and this is not talking about Empire, but like in just the labels and as a whole, is like how many people we see blow up, and then now you've never heard of them again, right? Like they have their 1 year like blow up after they get signed, or maybe then they get signed, and then you never hear from them again.
Yeah,
and that's the part that's really interesting to me. Is like why. Right? Like, there's no way that person's just never in the studio again, or they didn't have any music ready to go. And I think that's the one thing that's really scary about labels, right? It's like, you can absolutely sign a deal, and like, that's a lot of times good, right? Like, if I had the right, like, label deal presented to me with Stoopkid, and it was going to benefit all of our artists and everybody, like, I'm going to listen to that for sure. Everybody would, right? Like we want to be as successful as possible, but just usually that's not the case. That's why I like a situation like Believe, when it comes about, it's like, hey, we're going to distribute your music. Here's how we're going to do it differently. And then here's, you know, terms that are agreeable for everybody. Like those are the things that a lot of times make sense.
I also think that's completely the future for a lot of these things. It's like, we can push these things, like, and we like you guys. We're not going to fund you. Right. But we'll get it out to more people than you can get it out to.
Yeah, you want to use everybody's advantages, and like one thing that, you know, I was told really early on in my journey, as especially like when I started Stoopkid and everything like that, was like the music industry is a use game. It honestly is, right? Like everybody is using somebody else to get to another place, right? And if you're not okay with that, like get out now. You know what I mean? Like, get out now. Like, this is not going to be the game for you. But how you do it the right way is you make it mutually beneficial as possible, and you be as transparent with everybody as possible. And, like, that's the one thing I think our group does really well is, like, hey, here's the expectation. Like, here's the outcome that we're all hoping for. Does that sound good with you? And you just don't get that with, like, most majors, right? But I do think that's interesting, especially when you think about people, like I said, like, that blow up and then you never hear from again. It's like, what was that conversation like?
Yeah, or what? Yeah,
are we gonna blow up one album and then like never hear from anybody? I don't know.
I think a lot of that is, I mean, I don't know. I've not been in that spot, but I feel like a lot of people run out of juice when they get money because they're like, oh, I can go on vacation.
A lot of people make bad decisions.
Yeah. Spending money on bullshit, feeling like, okay, cool, like I achieved my goal. Yeah. And when I think in reality, the way you see success until you die is like you keep having another goal.
Right.
There's always something else beyond where you're standing.
Yeah, and diversify, right? Like that's what's cool about you. You have a lot of different paths. You've got the band, you've got the solo route, you've got the social media, and I'm sure as you continue to go on this journey, there'll probably be way more. I mean, like merch, like, you know, brands, whatever it is that you decide to do, like that's what's I think the most exciting part about all of this.
Yeah. Thank you. 100%. I definitely see myself, because as you talk about labels and everything like that, the weird thing for me is like I've heard all these things, the hideous stories about labels, but in my head, I think I'd still want to choose a label, even though a lot of people tell me like, oh no, stay independent, like be your own, like build it yourself. In my head, I feel like a lot of it is just the money. Like being able to have something fund you is the biggest part of it.
I mean, that's exactly it, right? It's like if you can find a situation where everything is mutually agreeable and you know the expectations, like I said, I would take it, right? Like I think any smart person that's in music, like you want that good situation. Absolutely.
Yeah, you even see big artists sign label deals that like we go, what the hell are you doing? But it's because of that, because they're used to funding everything themselves. So their tour, their merch, everything comes out of their pocket first and then comes back, hopefully.
Yep.
But yeah, if they take a big, record deal, then that shit's taken off the table for them.
Absolutely.
And they could just cash in the checks.
What else do like labels do, if you guys know? Because my good friend and
connections, I think, is a big thing.
Like his name's Diego, my friend. He's like, if labels are just giving, like if you sign a label deal and all they're giving you is like $100,000, what's stopping, like say an independent artist, say for example, if we go take a loan out for $100,000, what's stopping us from doing exactly what a label's doing?
Yeah, it's the distribution and marketing piece, right? Like that's what I would say is like number one is like they have the know-how. They have the expertise, they have the algorithms, they know how to make it work that like most of us don't, right? Like because of experience, because of their ability to put you in certain rooms, because of their connections, right? Like, it's, you know, you might be doing Joe Rogan versus Stoopkid University podcast, right? Like that's the difference, and that's why those things are attractive, and why they make sense for a lot of situations, because they have the know-how, and you can get those connections and that understanding to a certain extent, but it's going to take you so much time to do, right? Like, when artists really should be focusing so much on just creating, right?
You don't have to reinvent the wheel, I guess, for a lot of things. But there is like, it is cool to. I mean, I'm always cheering for independent artists that make it and do something really big. Like that always excites me, because it's
Russ is a great example, right? Like he dropped a song a day for like 3 years or whatever it was.
Long time, and he developed his following, and part of that too. You go like, just consistency. But I mean, he has like. New beats every week, new song new bars every week. It was just consistent, so it was like really hard work for him.
The talent's there, right?
The talent is there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like everything's right for everybody's situation. It's something that like I'm definitely not going to sit here and bash record labels, because for one, like we pseudo run like some sort of a record label ourselves, but also. Like it's an opportunity, like I said, like for anybody, for you, for the collective, for every artist that we work with. Like if you get the right major label deal, you'll take off. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's a interesting song by I don't know how you guys feel about this artist, but Macklemore on his album that really popped.
Boo,
yeah. Fuck Seattle. No, he. I think the song is I think it's called Jimmy Iovine. I think he just like calls it out blatantly, but he talks about meeting with Interscope Records and Jimmy Iovine, and like the conversation they had, and he just basically is saying like Jimmy Iovine walks in and called him a different name, was like, I love your music, but he's like going over this weird stuff, and he kind of like breaks down like what his experience was. He didn't go that route, and he's another one that kind of went up, independently, but yeah, he has an interesting conversation, and plus back then it was different than it is now. I feel like record labels are getting smart to like, okay, these guys can kind of do things on their own. Yeah. Let's play off of that, because otherwise we're not making any fucking money.
It seems like they are. I'm not going to speak on behalf of them, but it seems like they are understanding that like artists are getting smarter. Mm-hmm. Their teams are getting smarter.
It's easier to connect with people. It's so easy, dude. Yeah. So easy now.
Yeah. I mean, you throw enough money.
Yeah.
It solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway. Now that
this became a strategy meeting.
Yeah. Now that we've officially ruined Jordan's chances at ever getting signed.
Wait. Fuck Interscope.
No. Shit. Well, new songs coming out. I know we're working on the release plans right now. A lot more to come, but very excited. I know you just dropped a song with the band, right?
Yes. I did. It was Young Love. It was our second release ever, other than our first. Or we did like an acoustic version of our first release.
Nice. Is that on YouTube?
It is on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and everything with the band is at the moment separate from Jordan PALANI. So whatever happens on that end is different from like Jordan PALANI, Stoopkid, Believe. So
yeah, I'm really excited, man. I think that you are one of like the most humblest and brightest kids that I've ever met at your age, and like definitely one of the most promising in terms of just talent. And I love working with you. I know everybody else on the team does too. So thanks for coming on, bro. Really appreciate it. It was really fun. And fucking see you guys next time. Peace.